Hey guys, I don't know about this one. I messed around and created this mod pack, but it was a bit boring. So I thought, what can I do to make it more difficult? So I added parasites and mutant creatures. Look at this guy. Look at this big fellow. This guy will rip you to shreds. But while I was doing it, I was so stuck on if I could. I didn't think if I should. And this mod pack may be a bit too difficult for me, just a tiny bit. If you don't believe me, at least stay till day 4 because yikes, it gets pretty bad. And at this point, I really don't know if I can survive 100 days with one life in. Hey, a bit of a side note, there's a lot of new people visiting this channel and only a few of you are subscribed. If you enjoyed the video, why don't you sub? It really helps out the channel. This video will be part 1 of a 2-part saga, so you don't want to miss out on the second one. Enjoy the video. Day 1, I'm wasting no time. I need stone tools, I need food, and I need shelter fast. Lucky for me, I spawned in a forest and there's plenty of sheep. I had tools and food in no time. I came across this island and I happen to know it's a slime island. And if I could get up there, I could make some cool items. I started gathering wood and cooking some food. I had a whole temporary base set up and I was ready to climb. But guess what? I didn't have to because it started raining slimes immediately. What's even better is that they're in the water so they can't really attack me. One of them even dropped an iron sword. I was farming and I had a ton of slimes before I went to bed. I crafted some boots to negate fall damage in a slingshot before I headed out. I really needed to find a place to live fast. I climbed this mountain I found to get a better view of the area and I ended up going to a cottage that I spotted in the distance. In here I found my first piece of armor and a couple other useful items, but what I needed right now was a village to stay in and to get easy materials. But instead I fell down a ravine. But you know what? It's not so bad down here. Kinda safe, kinda cozy. I set up camp and I started mining for full iron, but I could already hear explosions off in the distance, which meant parasites were spawning. So I picked up the pace and I had full iron before I fell asleep. I decided to leave the cave, which in hindsight was a bad idea, but I was smoothing. I was gliding through the air, hitting the occasional tree. I made a pit stop here and there to get some food and check some more cottages, but I only really wanted a village at this point. And you know what? I got one. It was pretty small, but beggars can't be choosers. I started by clearing out a small zombie dungeon that was near it, and there was nothing really worth mentioning in there. When I got to the village, there was a bunch of these shady merchants selling crazy items for cheap. Yeah, nice try, buddy. But past these scammers, I found the blacksmith, and it had a pair of diamond pants with a living enchantment on them. This is big. Living enchantment meant that they leveled up as I played, so getting this in the early game was huge. I chose a house and I set up shop. I made a backpack and I started looking into Tinker's Construct for the rest of the day. I need grout to start Tinker's Construct stuff, so I went to get sand, clay, and gravel that I needed day 4. In no time I had grout smelting and I had all the benches that I needed to start Tinker's setup. Yeah, not a bad start. Uh-oh, stinky. That could be a slight problem, but I'm sure as long as I stay inside, I'll be fine. Yeah, so after seeing that outside my window, I boarded all of them up and I dug a small hole where I could escape at the slightest sign of danger. So apparently mutants can hit you through walls. Great, yeah, no, that's fun. And what's worse is I spotted some zombies spawning in my house. So I said screw it and I dug down. But do you hear that? At this point, I considered my house a lost cause and I have to keep digging down just to stay alive. So here I am, stuck in a hole, scared and alone. We've now entered. I dug into a small cave, but I didn't want to go in because it looked scary. And I don't want to hear anything about that because did you hear that scream earlier? The morning of day 5, it had quieted down upstairs, so I slowly started to make my way back up. At the top, my house was surprisingly intact, so I secured it a bit and tried to take out the zombies in the corner. I don't want to play anymore. I don't. It's so scary. But I still wanted to see the damage outside because I still had a tiny bit of hope left to salvage this place. It was a terrible idea, just awful. Never again. I hate outside. I gathered all the things that I could and safely dug back down into the cave. From there, I was able to dig to the surface a safe distance away and I was out of there. I still needed more grout, so I jumped around all day looking for gravel. I spent most of the day looking, but all I could find was sand and clay, and the sun was getting low. Also, guess who forgot their bed in all the panic? Yeah, so I took shelter in a cave that I found. I set up shop and tried to barricade as much as possible, but there was once again a war going on above my head. And while I was already underground, I had PTSD, so I prepared for the worst. But my pick was starting to break, so I went up to make a new one. I can't catch a break here. I dug down as low as I could and dug out a little burrow. And I guess that the world felt bad for me, cause look what I found. Yeah, now I can make more grout. I heard some zombies, but luckily I was smart enough and closed off the...
お前はもう死んでいる。何?
Listen guys, I need you to forget about that. That was so bad. When I dug to the surface, I found a crater where my hole used to be. Just tragic, truly. But it's all good now, cause I got a village. Maybe my luck is finally... You can't write this shit, man. You can't. I found a new sword in the blacksmith, and it started to get dark after I looted the village. And you know what? Fuck it, I'm digging down now. I think the problem before was that I didn't dig down far enough. So this time we're going about 50 levels down, so that my chance of survival increases about 2%. I'm only 20 levels above diamond level, and I still don't feel safe, but I set up camp. The biggest thing after that being that I set up my tinker's smeltery. Yeah, this is big. By the time I emerged from the depths of the earth, it was because I was out of wood and I needed lava for my smelter. It was morning and I found another village that was close to my house, so I decided to head over there. In the blacksmith, I found some duct tape, which is the best item in the game, and I grabbed some lava from there too. Back home, I did a bit of renovation, and now I could store all my trash I've been carrying around. But now it's time to figure out Tinker's construct. I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing. And it was a very painful process that all could have been avoided if I had just read the fucking book. But I'm lazy, so I skimmed it. But some of the stuff I feel like it doesn't tell you, or I missed it because I still haven't read through it completely because once again, I am lazy. But finally, the morning of day 8, I had my first tinker's tool, a pickaxe. It says that it's mining level diamond, so I think it's an upgrade, but don't quote me on that. I used some iron that I mined from my own walls to upgrade my backpack, then I expanded my base a bit because it's cramped. Then I set my sights on Tinker's armor. It's upgradable, somewhat easy, and I think it'll be my best option. I made the new table and I decided that iron was the best way to go. Keep in mind, I have no idea what I'm doing. It just looked like the stats were fine. And also, I literally have nothing else, mostly that second one. But that's besides the point, because I now had a Tinker's chest piece, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm feeling good. The stats are the same as my chest piece, but once I figure out how literally any of this works, it'll be great. I put only lapis on my pickaxe because I thought it would give me fortune. Turns out I'm a little bit short, but I didn't know that at the time, so I decided to go mining. There's a mine shaft a couple floors above my base, so I very cautiously just jumped right in. I found a bunch of veins and I remembered something about moss for Tinker's gear, and it could actually be used for mending, so I grabbed a bunch. But I didn't go too far because I'm still traumatized from the dark ages, and it's probably for the best that I didn't. I tried putting moss on my pickaxe, but it turns out you need to click it on a bookshelf, so I crafted that and put mending and haste on my pickaxe. Oh look, I'm in the mines again! Great, during a blood moon too. But it turns out this trip was actually not stupid. The mine shaft led to an even bigger mine shaft. Wow. And this place had hidden rooms like this one. In here I found these demons from hell and got my first diamonds, along with an unbreaking 10 flint and steel. Day 10, I'm mining every single ore in sight, and they just don't stop coming. I wasn't looking for anything in particular, but I thought I'd just keep mining until the cave ended, but it just never did, so I just kept mining. I got some gold, which is huge for making a reusable tinker cast, but the real treasure, of course, is diamonds, and more, and more. This cave had so many diamonds in it, but it also had about 50 different types of flowers. I'm talking flowers that make you float, flowers that set you on fire, wither flowers, and some that just put you in a fucking wall. It got to the point where I was so sick of all the flowers and I had a bunch of resources, so I just headed back home. I threw everything in the furnaces when I got back the next day. I could finally make some gold casts instead of the clay ones I've been using, but I mainly spent the day looking through the Tinker's book. There are so many options and benefits for each material, it can be a bit overwhelming, not to mention all the modifiers that you can use. But for now, I just decided to keep it simple and make an iron helmet, and I spent the rest of the day just window shopping. I started to take interest in the angel ring on day 12. Having a safe mode of transportation in this dangerous world seemed pretty useful, but I was nowhere near the materials needed, so I decided to just make a diamond backpack and headed to the surface to explore the area around me. I passed through another village, but more importantly, look who I found. Yeah, the Crash Bandicoot boys. Love these guys. I thought I'd take them on for old time's sake. What a mistake that was. With my new gear, I overestimated my place on the food chain. My sword was kind of weak and my armor wasn't doing anything. In the end, I was forced to retreat. But you know, I think I've hit my quota for L's taken today. I should be good. Okay, whatever, you know, slight hiccup. But now I can... Okay. I got back out there day 13, flinging through the air. I found a desert temple and I rarely find these things anymore. It had some neat items, but nothing that I'm looking for, so I just jumped out. This ship, on the other hand, has some god tier loot. The weapons themselves are nice, but the enchantments on them are just insane. The ship also has some hidden blocks I knew about, and each of these barrels have their own loot pool. I spent most of the day just clearing this place out. I eventually headed out, but there was another blood moon. Love that. The percentage is just so high. But it's fine, I just placed away a stone and went home. I'm making big moves day 14. I'm learning, alright? My tiny monkey brain is expanding. Call me Jimmy Neutron because I'm having brain blasts left, right, and center. I just learned that materials had different qualities. So I made a silver obsidian chest piece and a pickaxe. But at the time, this was huge for me. So let me have this, please. I had a good sword at this point, but I had my eye on the cleavers. The swing speed was bad, but I figured if I just one-shot everything, then the swing speed just doesn't matter. When I was done, it was fully silver with a large iron plate for durability. It had the holy ability, which looked like it would be huge for the mobs that I was taking on. Then I put some modifiers on it. I'm still winging it at this point, but it wasn't bad. Yeah, look at me, not dead. I headed back out and then it started to get dark, but I had a slight problem. I had no experience to use my waystone, so I started killing. But then I spotted a mutant zombie. And like I said, I'm feeling good. And I was so empowered by not being dead that I thought, let's just see where I stand, you know? He's a special, but he only tries to web you. So I went in and that is just a third of my health just gone. So I will no longer be attacking him, ever. Luckily, he sent some goons at me, and with the XP that I got from them, I could teleport home. Let's just say that was a bit of a wake-up call for me. I instantly started looking for an angel ring as soon as I got home. Having a safe mode of transportation would result in way more materials overall, but in order to craft that, I needed a golden lasso, and for that I needed levels, and I had none right now. So instead, I turned my sights towards enchanting. I finally had enough materials to make 15 bookshelves, but I didn't want to use the obsidian that I had because I also wanted to go to the nether. I needed to go there to get cobalt and some other materials for better tinker's gear. So my solution was to go mining. While I was out, I had a couple stumbles during the expedition. But by the night of day 16, I had finally reached lava and I could mine to my heart's content. The journey up went... just so smoothly and problem free, yeah. But I made it back up and I set up my enchantment table. I also crafted the lasso that I needed, but what I didn't know is that you actually need specific animals, and for the last ring, you needed to capture a ghast. This is going to be a bit harder than I thought, but for right now, I said fuck it and I set up my nether portal and headed to the nether. And my spawn was just the worst. I dug like 3 different directions. I didn't know if I was underground or in the ceiling, and I was fuming. It wasn't until the morning of day 18 that I finally broke free. And look, What a friendly surprise. And yes, these things do hurt, but it wasn't all bad because while I was navigating through this hell, I spotted my first bit of cobalt. This is huge and I kept finding more patches of it, but my main focus was a fortress so that I could place a waystone. But of course, my spawn was so bad that I had to very carefully make my way through here. But even with all this, it could take a couple days to even get close to one. Okay. Moving on, this place was no walk in the park with all the blazes and wither skeletons, but I could at least one-shot the skeletons, and I even got a skull. The loot wasn't that bad, and look what I found. Yeah, it's like a cool flintlock thing. I had fun messing around with it until I realized that it was completely useless. But honestly, I was being too reckless in this place. I kept taking easily avoidable damage and I was running low on food. I decided to switch my main focus to gathering as much cobalt and iridite as possible, but I was also hoping to find some molybdenum. I was still in the nether day 19 and I was back in the fortress. For some reason I wanted to find blaze spawners or something. But I don't know at this point. I know it's costing me a lot of unnecessary damage staying here. And eventually I randomly mined into the spawn room, and after struggling to fight the blazes, getting down to 3 hearts and only 2 apples as food, I finally went home and went to bed. I haven't seen any parasites in a while, and I'm in a biome where mutants can't spawn, so I decided to head up and get some food. But for some reason, killing enemies with my sword wasn't dropping food. I tried killing them with my pickaxe, and that wasn't working either. I figured it must be something with tinkers, so I pulled out my old sword, and it started working fine. Yeah, that was almost bad. I just didn't think that that's how parasites worked, but at least So parasites had spread a little bit. It's time to make some upgrades before things got out of hand. So I smelted some cobalt and organized my chest. I looked through the Tinker's book and it turns out that iridite is very good as an armor trim. So I threw what I had in and I headed back into the nether because I had skipped over a bunch of veins thinking it wasn't that good. I found some pretty easily. Some of it was next to a pigman, but it's fine as long as I don't. I'm sure that that was just an accident. Alright, I'm starting to think he's doing this on purpose, but it's fine. I just mined some more iridite. Then I decided to head this way for no reason in particular. Then I went home for no other reason other than I felt like never being in the nether ever again. I'm starting to look at angel wings again after the events that didn't take place yesterday. I went out to grab a chicken for the next ring, but when I came home and checked the smelter, yeah, so it turns out molybdenum is a mixture of iridite and cobalt. Who knew, except probably everyone watching this video? But whatever, this is great because now I have a bunch and I can start making my new gear. And after some failed experiments with paper, I started making a sword. But then midway through I started making a chest piece for some reason. So my first piece of molybdenum iridite armor was a chest piece. Let me know in the comments if this is the best combination to use and what you guys usually go with. Anyways, after a quick trip to the mines for lava, I started making the rest of the gear. I made everything except for pants because I ran out of materials, and to be honest, my diamond pants that I was wearing right now had living on it, so I was doing fine. The fact that I was wearing real boots instead of slime boots alone was a big enough upgrade to compensate. Now, I set my sights on the next ring that I needed for the angel ring. I needed a squid, but instead I only found a boss. Only problem is I'm not really confident in my abilities right now, so I just decided to mark it for later. For right now, I just kept going water source to water source, just looking for squids. But just when I was about to give up, I found even more bullshit. After that, I just went home. I keep getting put in my place after every upgrade that I get. I tried to figure out paper one more time while I was at home. It turns out you just need a bunch of paper to make parts, more than any other material. So I just gave up and went to bed. I'm in the nether again day 23, because after getting my ass kicked, I decided to gather more materials. It was a short trip just in and out. When I got back home, I made the last piece of my sword and I put a few modifiers on it. But I also made a mallet too because it seemed really effective at mining, and I had a lot of armor with good enchantments at this point, so I figured I'd also make a disenchantment table and an anvil. But hey, guess what? You can't put enchantments on tinker armor. Yeah, it makes sense, but I still just didn't think about it, so it was super disappointing. Day 24, I'm back on the hunt for squids. But at this point, I'm convinced that they sort of just don't exist. I tried forcing them to spawn, but I got bored, so I went back out again, and I fucking found some. This is huge. I rushed home because it was dark, and I didn't craft it for some reason. I got nothing. I have no idea why I didn't craft it. I instead finally found out about the really good modifiers for Tinker's Construct armor, like the resistance modifier, which is like protection. But in order to make a bunch of these, I needed iron, so I had to go mining again. And let me just say that the mallet is really useful for mining. You can get large veins super fast, and even though it doesn't have fortune on it, it just makes it easier most of the time. By night, I had enough iron and obsidian to head back up. I smelted it and I made a couple modifiers, including a gauntlet that increases damage. I tried to put modifiers on my armor, but it turns out that you need an upgraded armor table, so I had to waste some iron on that. But I was still able to use the modifiers that I had to make some slightly better armor. And for the cherry on top, I put diamond on 2 pieces of armor. Day 27, I finally made the squid ring. And I have no idea why I was putting off making this for so long. I could have been making more progress towards the angel ring, but nope. Now I just needed to make the angel ring itself, but I'm going to be honest, the idea of catching a ghast is horrific. So for right now, I just crafted a new lasso and went to the mines to catch a bat. The hardest part of this was just finding a bat itself, but I've been through these caves enough times, so I found one eventually. But I can't put this off for forever, so I dive into the nether to catch a ghast day 28. I really wanted to find a nice open area to just stay in and wait, rather than endlessly running through the nether. I ended up on this cliff with a village below me, where I spotted my first ghast. The problem was, there were about 2 or 3 mutant endermen below me, and while I'm running around trying to bait this ghast, they just kept pulling me around. And of course, the ghast kept backing up further away. I tried backing up to stop him, but eventually he just despawned. Another one spawned not too long after, and this one just decided to just submerge rather than attack me. I stayed here for a while, but eventually some circumstances led to me deciding to just leave. It didn't take long for me to wander into a spot that was nice and open, and now it's just a waiting game, and I spent most of my time just mining resources. But of course, I get bored easily, and I thought, you know what? Let's tempt fate a little bit. I built out towards this bee nest, and as I expected, a ghast spawned. I was able to bring him down to ground level, but it worked a little bit too well, and he just disappeared into the lava, just like the other one. Attempt number 3, I built up to one that I saw, and I just can't catch a break here. But while I was doing some research on possible methods, I did discover that the ghast has to be weak before you capture him. And this leads to attempt number 4, where I'm fighting a ghast and I have him on ground level, and I one-shot him. Oh, dude, I'm a broken man, please help me. Day 40. Yes, it took me that long. About 10 days. I finally caught a ghast. I didn't even realize when it happened. I was just so stunned. And this situation looks almost perfect. But let me tell you, there were so many times when it looked exactly like this and something went wrong and I messed it up over the past 10 days. But I returned home with the last piece I needed to fly, and the first thing I did was actually upgraded my legs to Tinker's Construct armor. The living pants had served me well, but it was time to move on. I also put mending moss on 2 other pieces of armor. I had gathered a lot of materials in the nether, so I decided it was time to upgrade my pickaxe as well. I put a few modifiers on it, but nothing special yet. But now it was time. I crafted the ring, I went up to the surface, and it didn't fucking work. I am pissed beyond belief. I will burn this world to the ground. Turns out it needs power. You can imagine my disappointment as I had spent so much time on it. I sort of just expected it to work. But you know what? It's fine. Did a bit of research, and a simple water generator from extra utilities will do the job. Now I need you to keep in mind I have no idea what that is, and also I am very stupid. But it kinda seemed simple enough, so I just jumped into the mines and started gathering materials. After a bit of manual labor, I emerged with enough redstone to power all of Ohio, and I crafted the very basics of what I need, and I made some space. Ladies and gentlemen. Now, I will once again put another disclaimer that I have no idea what I'm doing. But day 42, I started crafting the materials for the water generator. I was watching a tutorial and this was the design that made sense, but after setting it up, it didn't seem like it had enough power, or maybe I had to wait. I don't know, but I'm impatient, so I made a second one. After about a minute, I could fly. This is huge, boys. This meant that I could finally go outside and feel safe. Now that I had that done, I turned my attention to Draconic Evolution gear. But to be honest, that seemed like a lot of effort, also a lot of resources I don't have, so for right now, I just decided to focus on Tinker's Construct. Now that I could fly, I would make fighting a lot easier, but to take advantage of that, I'd need a bow. I decided to make a longbow because it was high damage and I could sit in the air as long as I wanted while I draw my bow. But the thing with Tinker's is that it doesn't say how materials work. I didn't know that paper took 5 times resources, and I didn't know what parts could be made with a smelter and what parts could be made with a part builder. I wasted so much time making casts for parts that just didn't need them, and by the end of the day, I finally had my bow and arrow made. I decided that if I'm going to be sticking with Tinkers for a while, I need to make my armor stronger. Right now, I'm just taking too much damage, but I don't really know what I could do. Oh. So anyways, I started mining. The plan is simple. It's to stack plates to the moon, baby. Call it Dogecoin. Okay, well maybe not Dogecoin, because my armor certainly won't fail me unexpectedly. Right? By the time I got home day 45, I had enough iron to make at least, I don't know, like 2 plates maybe. I had resistance 2 on half and resistance 3 on the other half. Now that may seem like a lot, but that was about an hour's worth of mining, so that's a big yikes from me. But mama didn't raise no quitter, so I said fuck it and mined till midway through day 46. I needed the resources anyways, and with that I had enough to bring all of my armor except my legs up to resistant level 4. So now I can move on. Just kidding, more mining. I'm back home now and my hammer is literally broken from so much mining. But at the very least, all my armor is resistant level 4, which means maybe, just maybe, I can survive 2 blazes. And a Beyblade, but you know, let's not get crazy. I decided to use some of my last millennium to make a block so that I could use ingots to heal my broken gear. I healed my hammer, did a bit more mining, then I decided to do a test. You know, I had a bit of iron left over. Can I upgrade my gear to resistant level 5? Turns out you can, and you know what? I'm pretty strong right now. I'm feeling good at this point. And there's a blood moon right now. So fuck it, let's test out my gear. I've been slowly adding modifiers to all my gear, so let's see, you know? There's a bunch more parasites outside, but my bow does really nice damage, so I think that I can hold up in the air. When I got home, I was in complete shock. That could have been it. I felt terrified because the sky was supposed to be my safety. I was so confused and I felt so powerless, and I had no idea what could have happened. My ring was fully charged, so it couldn't have been that. After a little bit of research, turns out the chunks with my power source had unloaded. I needed a chunk loader in order to ensure my safety. But while I was looking at the chunk loader, and I was looking through other extra utility mod stuff, I found something. Something that could save me from the world and execute anything in my path. The Kyoko looks deceivingly easy to make in sort of a weird way. It looks like it thinks that it's hard to make, if that makes any sense. Each core needs 2 cores to make them. The elytras, the material blocks, and the nether stars make someone like me think, it seems a bit difficult, but I can do it. But you need to think of it like this. Let's say that there are 7 levels of cores. Let's say that you finally make it to core level 4 and it took about 7 blocks of diamonds and 10 blocks of iron. You now need to make another core and then you have a level 5 core. But now you need to make another level 5 core. So now you have to do everything that you just did over again. And this is a very slippery slope. The materials that you need actually come to the thousands. But you see, right now I'm in a bit of a desperate and vulnerable state. and I need something to make me feel powerful, so I began crafting day 48. I left some coal to condense while I went to get a villager for my chunk loader, but yeah, that's gonna be a bit of a problem, and it's dangerously close to my base. I killed the main guy and I thought nothing of it. They have a mechanic where if you kill the guy who spread it, the stuff should disappear after a while. These areas also spawn more parasites, so I tried to take care of them, but one of them snatched my sword, so I had to pick them off and then grab it. But there's a noticeably larger amount of parasites here now. I think the infection stage may have increased at some point. It's supposed to display a message when that happened, but I guess I missed it. But they can't be any higher than like 1 at this point. So I forgot about it and grabbed one of the scared villagers in this corner for the loader. But the infected blocks aren't turning back yet. I don't know how long it's supposed to take, but I'm a little bit nervous. And there are definitely more parasites out here now. Even a higher ranked one, which is a bit scary. But no one could stand a chance against my new sword. But once I got back in, there's another problem. The villager for the chunk loader needs to sign a contract, and this guy doesn't want to sign one. What a shame. I just need to find one who will be more... Oh, okay, so you know how I said about their level? Yeah, this is actually really bad. This is so much worse than what I thought. And more beacons are also spawning on the infected lands. This is getting very out of control very fast. Day 49, I decide to take matters into my own hands. I'm running low on materials at this point, but I made a cobalt shovel, put haste on it, and started digging. Now, a couple problems came up pretty quickly. First, this guy. I'm guessing he was a defender or something, but he wasn't too bad. Secondly, this shit was deep. And I don't mean fake 14-year-old deep. This was stone deep. And to make matters worse, more of these guys kept spawning. And I didn't notice this, but let's take a quick look at my durability on my armor after that second one. Yeah, what the fuck is this? I'll tell you what it is. It's what we like to call a setup. In this moment, I'm now thinking that this guy not only almost one-shot me, but also brought all my armor to 5 durability, and I am losing it. And to make matters worse, these 2 chicken in my inventory are my only food that I have left. At the end of the day, I tried another method to remove the blocks, but it's just too deep at this point. I'm losing this fight, and very badly. I kept chipping away at some more of it day 50, but it's still just not making a dent. More keeps spawning and it's not going away, and it's actually still spreading. I just decided to retreat home for now because my shovel was about to break. I found out that you can cast ingots, which would be useful to heal my armor that is apparently made out of paper. I healed my shovel and I kept digging. That is until this guy hit me again and shredded my armor, and at this point, I just don't understand what's happening. Even if those shots are super effective against armor, for it to shred this fast is insane. I need a solution and I need one fast. I knew that Tinker's armor couldn't be enchanted because the modifiers are supposed to substitute for them. So there must be something like unbreaking. And that's when I discovered the reinforcement modifier, my salvation. But not only that, but it's 10 times easier to make compared to the resistant mod. I made 54 stone bindings and I got to work. That is until I ran into a new problem. My Tinker's leveling mod has been disabled this entire time, and I didn't notice. This meant that all my gear needed to be adjusted in order for it to level up. And what's more, I'm out of food. But we're gonna have to tackle one problem at a time. The next morning I went out to keep digging, but at this point it's pretty much past salvation. The mod isn't supposed to work like this, and the corruption is spreading deeper and further. But it doesn't end there because the parasite spawn rates have greatly increased in my area. This means I can't find food around me, and some of the higher level parasites are spawning, like this dude. I mean, just look at this guy and how much damage he takes. And after seeing this, I thought, oh fuck, I need to get a villager before they all die. But not only did none of them want to sign, they insulted me. So I left them there and I rushed to the safety of my home. At home, I had to resort to crafting rations for survival. I've truly hit a new low. Day 52, I woke up to more tentacles on my lawn that I needed to kill. But at the very least, on my way to the village, I found a few cows that weren't parasites, so I had a bit of food. Unfortunately, none of the villagers at this place wanted to sign the contract, but at least I was able to get some more carrots for food. My next best option was another village that I had passed a while ago. On the way there, I got a few cows and pigs that must have been out of my render distance and were safe. So my food problem was solved for now. And even better, I found a villager that was willing to sign the contract. Of course, it was a shady villager, but a villager is a villager, honestly, at this point. I stole some more carrots and went home. Oh my god, what is it? It's a hideous creature from the depths of hell. But he couldn't fly, so I should be able to... Alright, listen guys. I thought I could take it. Anyways, I went home and things are getting worse. This corruption is almost at my doorstep at this point. But at the very least, on the bright side, I now have a chunk loader, so I don't have to worry about falling out of the sky again. With this done, the first thing I did was go to the nether. For some reason, I didn't write down why, but I did some mining. I finally went to one of those villages that were in the nether too, and they didn't have jack shit. While I was in the nether, I see a mutant enderman and I think, screw it, I can do this because I really need a win right now. So I fight him. And I win. So with that win, I go home and I make a big decision. I spend days 54 through 57 in creative mode trying to get rid of the corruption. And before you get mad, it is not working like it's supposed to at all. And even after all these days, I could not get rid of it in creative mode. So here's what I came up with. I made it so that it cannot spread to stone. This makes it so that it'll still spread, but it won't reach my base. I went into survival, I covered up my staircase, and I put a floating waypoint on top of my base. That is the solution. I don't want to say anything about it. Make a nice comment like, oh, that was a great move. That was so smart, what you did days 54 through 57. Shout out Forge Labs. Now that that's taken care of, I can finally figure out how to fix my weapons so that they level up day 58. Turns out it's super easy. You just put a tool in with whatever piece you want to switch. Simple. But I spent half of the day trying to put an aluminum trim on a piece of armor that already had one. So that's fun. When I finally figured it out, I switched my pickaxe and hammer with an ardite head, and all of my armor also got an ardite trim. Now I'm in the nether again. I'm hunting mutant endermen because I want to kill the ender dragon. Mainly because it seems easier than dealing with parasites. I can kill them pretty easily and they drop a decent amount of ender pearls and eyes of ender. But while I'm on the hunt, guess what I found? A fucking gas spawner. Where was this when I needed it? It would have saved me 10 days. And the loot in it wasn't even good. In my 100 days in a Minecraft multiverse video, go check it out if you haven't. Also sub if you made it this far in the video. But in that video, these things had god loot. And this one just has sadness and regret. Speaking of regret, at this point I've been looking for a mutant enderman with not much luck. The next one I found was a special, but I didn't think it was a good idea, so I left. Good on me, making a good choice for once, and I'm fighting it? And it withered me? No. I eventually found one, killed him, and went home. It was the night of day 59 when I threw my first pearl. But of course about 5 minutes pass and I'm fighting a mutant zombie, because why not? He goes down easy and all I have to do now is... God? No, he's not God. Turns out they can be killed multiple times. And to make matters worse, a special parasite villager decided to join in. Okay, never mind, he's dead.
You are the chosen one!
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy.
But the zombie's back and he brought a friend. But you know what? It wasn't enough to save him. But what was terrifying was the mutant skeleton that came out of nowhere with infinite range and pinpoint accuracy. But you know what? It doesn't matter because he wasn't that bad at all, not compared to the parasites that I've been fighting on my own doorstep. I was in the stronghold day 60, and this is very possibly the most scuffed stronghold I have ever been in. I can fly and it took me 13 minutes to find it. If you have no form of reference, then just know that that's a very long time, and it's actually kind of insane. It's so broken up and everything looked the same, but I finally found the portal room. I jumped in and the fight went like this. fucking easy mode. I jumped in and then immediately came back to collect ores. There is just an absurd amount of mutant endermen like all around me, but as long as I didn't eye them up, we were chill. I spent a decent chunk of time just mining draconium all over the place. I needed it for draconic evolution stuff, and this place is rare in other dimensions, but it's just lying all over the place here, and it's really easy to spot. I mined as much as I could find, then I decided to jump into the real end. But I was out for more than just finding the end city. Oh no, I had bigger plans. I was still in my pipe dream of the Kakaku. Just to let you sink in how much I underestimated this project, I thought I only needed 6 elytras. Oh, how wrong I was. But for right now, I flew through the end like a shooting star. Oh yeah, like this thing right here. As a man who still had a pipe dream of getting draconic evolution gear, this was huge. A meteor full of draconium. I mined a little into the center because I thought that there was going to be something, but nope, just more draconium. But I was still so happy I marked it and I continued raiding end cities. My strategy for end cities was to loot a little bit of the other chests at first, but after a while I got bored and I just gunned straight for the elytras. Highlights include a bonus elytra in one boat and anchoring a mutant enderman every once in a while. By day 62, I had finally gotten all 6 elytras that I thought I needed, but I was about 5,000 blocks away from my portal, and while I've seen multiple others on the way, I did not have the hindsight to mark one. I wandered in multiple directions trying to escape the fate of having to travel back, but I eventually just had to give in. Until I bumped into one like 2 minutes later and went home. I had so much stuff at this point. When I got back, I had to make another set of chests just to dump end city loot in. After I sorted through all of that, my next mission was to add more reinforcement modifiers to my armor. So that meant more mining. I mined through the morning with the highlight of the night being falling into lava and all of my armor upgrading at the same time. This was actually exactly what I needed because it gave me the extra modifier slot that I needed in order to slap the armor plates on my armor. I even tried to put another level on it, but they were out of slots. But now it's time to focus on more important stuff, like making my sword. Oh, he doesn't know. He lacks critical information. Oh. My plan led me to make an XP drain for bottles of enchanting needed for later cores. While I was doing this, I threw about a stack of coal into the resonator to be made into materials I needed. But at this point, I was gathering materials for later cores because I didn't have the materials for lower cores right now, and I was tired of mining. This whole project is really starting to seem It was when I started crafting cores and looked at the recipes that it really clicked. I realized the real number of elytras needed to make the sword was actually 16, and this is how I realized how many cores were actually needed to make this thing. So now what? I threw myself into the parasites. I went out and I fought them head on. For just no reason. I don't know, just to prove that I could do it, I guess. But while this was incredibly stupid, it got even worse. Because multiple times, my angel ring stopped working. This almost got me killed so many times. The first few times I thought it was a glitch, but after a while I looked at my ring and I realized that the power was fluctuating. I instantly realized what was happening and teleported home. The coal that I put in the resonator was taking power and it almost took my life. But I still went back out there and I took on advanced parasite after advanced parasite till morning. My main setback in core progression was emeralds. I thought the best way to get them would be to trade. Luckily, I was surrounded by 3 villages. Unfortunately, one looked abandoned and I saw a lot of parasites over there, so I assumed it got wiped out. But no problem, next up is the other village in the corner. I remember leaving them there. I had to take care of the bodyguard in the front, then, oh no. At this point, I'm actually worried, but I knew the village that was outside of my render distance was probably alright. So I headed over there, and everything was fine. I was right. I set up a waystone and I traded everything I had, along with everything that they had. It wasn't much, but I also had the idea of getting the resources from the other villages as well. By the time I'd collected some, a blood moon came in. I stayed in for a while, but it's been a minute since I was out during a blood moon, so I headed up. I can fly and there's nothing to knock me down this time. very, very bad. The parasites are progressing and I'm at a standstill. I need Kokaku, so I hopped in the nether. My next move was nether stars. It took some time to find a fortress even with the ability to fly, but gathering skulls was pretty easy. I was in a soul sand biome, so the spawn rates were high. I just flew around one path, one-shotting skeletons, and I don't know if the drop rates are increased, but I was getting them surprisingly fast. I was playing a bit risky and my health did get somewhat low at some points, but I was home by the night of day 66. Some last minute prep and I was ready to fight the wither. Yeah, so that could have gone better. I was lazy, but you know, we go again. I played it smart that time and it definitely made a big difference. After this, I needed something calming, and also I needed materials to make progress towards the sword. If only there was an activity, maybe in the name of the game, that could quench these thirsts and needs. It wasn't until midway through day 68 that I finally headed home with just so much stuff. I started smelting and making cores in the process, but once again I burned through my materials in almost an instant. My main holdback was once again emeralds. I still had some of the other materials smelting, so I left them to go trade with the villagers some more. When I got to the village, there were more parasites, and I looked around for the villagers that I assumed were just hiding. I finally found some. Oh no. This village was the last one in my area, the last bit of normalcy, and now it's gone. I checked the other village one last time, and while I was greeted with a corrupt villager, there was also one alive, a green coat. A bit irritated, I took it out on the Sun Chief that I couldn't before. I was definitely stronger than before, but I was still no match for the higher level parasites. With the village gone, I came to the realization that the sword was pointless. I could look for another one, but what's the point? So I shifted my gaze to draconic evolution. The first step, of course, was more mining. I got home day 70 and I started expanding the base. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I figured it could not be that hard. It could be that hard. The main source of the mod was draconium, and I had just a bit that I had gathered. So with the tutorial on my other screen, I got to work. I had limited space to work because of a mine shaft and giant caves that surrounded my base, but I made it work. This setup was the main part of the mod, but I still needed to power it. Day 71, the plan was simple. Boys, I was going to add 2 more water generators and connect them to the draconic system using a block from the mod. The problem? I just don't get it. I just don't understand, like straight up, I just don't. Maybe the mods weren't compatible, maybe I did it wrong, maybe there was a glitch. But when I started the machine day 72, it just wasn't working. After some research for a while, I decided to just give up. I just gave up. It's time for a new plan. And what is this plan? To stick to Tinkers. When I enabled the Tinkers level up mod, I also enabled a Tinkers expansion mod. Both of these were supposed to be here from the start, but I messed up. But for now, of course, I needed to go mining for these new materials. But before that, I expanded my smelter because I'm going to be doing a lot of that. I started mining for a while in my old caves, but I wasn't seeing anything useful. Then I realized that I'm stupid and I need to go to the new chunks in order to get the new ores. It's simple geometry. A few new chunks later, and look at that! A bunch of the stuff that I needed. Wow, there's a bunch of this green essence in some of these other blocks. Lucky for me, these caves are huge and one vein led to the next. Eventually, it got to the point where my pockets were just so full that I headed home. But a slight problem when I started crafting, the material I want is supremium. And it's starting to look like a repeat because there are like 4 stages of crafting before you get to that level. But unlike before with the sword, I just need a crap load of essence. This led to a cycle of getting materials, coming home, crafting, not having enough materials, and going mining again. The only time that I stopped the cycle was at the end of day 75 to craft a new upgrade for my helmet. night vision goggles because I was starting to run low on wood and coal, and also to make some more food. I can make golden carrots now with all the gold I collected for the sword, but then it was back to work. And finally, after so much work, late day 76, I finally crafted my first supremium ingot. But you know, the hype was sort of short-lived because you can't do jack shit with one ingot, so I needed more. By this point, I was starting to realize how long this is gonna take, and I'm not gonna lie, I was fading fast. But just after I got this ingot, something else caught my eye. You could use draconic evolution items to make gear, and it was really good. And after I figured out that you need to put the parts in the part builder and not in the smelter, I made a draconium blade. I couldn't put this blade on my old sword because it just didn't have enough space. I didn't want to waste it, so I spent time looking into the best combination that I could make, and I settled on 2 millennium rods and an ardite plate. I made my ultimate sword. With a base damage of holy shit, this weapon could only get better. Making this sword gave me an idea to make a bow as well. I couldn't attach parts, so I just had to make an entirely new bow. But what I could do was use the 2 supremium ingots that I had to make an arrowhead and attach it to my current arrow. And it did big damage, and I made a bow soon after. Also, my armor had leveled up, so I could upgrade all of the pieces to resistance 5. Day 79, I spent most of the day just looking at ways for my armor to get stronger. For the moment, I just decided to upgrade my pickaxe, because I was worried about putting draconium on all my gear. One of the modifiers that draconium had was called 2OP, and I couldn't find what it did online, but I still wanted to test out my new bow. So when a blood moon came at night, I headed up. The draw speed on this thing was insane, and the damage was even crazier. The screen turning black was my helmet breaking, and when I looked at my armor, it was all very low. I barely made it back to the waystone. It all happened so fast, I didn't even have a moment to think. But at the moment, in my confused state, I came to the conclusion that it was a 2OP modifier. It wasn't. The shots from certain parasites just completely destroy armor. But this wasn't the only reason I discarded my bow. I did a bit more digging, and it turns out that the 2OP modifier just kills you. Why is that in the game? Why doesn't it just tell you that instead of this cryptic bullshit? If I had died from that, I would have uninstalled and summoned my monitor. I spent the greater part of day 80 just trying to make a bow without the 2OP modifier on it, but still including draconium. It just didn't work with a bow no matter what I did. After a while, I gave up and turned my attention to making the best armor that I could. My first move was to get steel plates for everything. This would make my armor more effective with the modifier that steel provides. Slight problem, I have no idea how to get steel because you can't mine it. I looked it up and the first solution I found was to make chainmail armor and smelt it. It did not work at all. Plan B revolved around the dungeon tactics mod. I made coal dust and surrounded it with iron to make steel dust. I tried to turn it into steel ingots, but you can just smelt it as the dust. From there, I just made 4 plates and slotted them in, easy. Next is the king slime for trims. This will give me more hearts, but this one's a bit tricky because I need the rare purple slime balls. You can get them from slime island trees, or you can find islands, but they're rare. I went to the surface to look for a slime island and I killed this demon on the way. I found an island easy. I broke the tree and I waited all night. Not a single purple slime ball. So instead of waiting for a slime ball to drop from a tree, I decided to just go looking for the rare purple slime island. It is literally right here, like not even 500 blocks away from my house. Okay. I'm home day 82 and I mixed all the ingredients to make king slime in the smeltery. And I had all 4 trims done easy. When it was all said and done, I had an extra 8 hearts to work with. Hopefully this means I will not get killed as fast. Also, it turns out for Tinker's armor, you can go above 5 resistance levels. I don't know what the cap is, but I want to get my armor at least 1 higher. So it's mining time, everybody. So in the script right here, I have it written down to say like any miners in the chat. Like it's funny because it's like It's like Twitch chat, and it's also like cause like Minecraft YouTubers. But I'm not gonna say it. I'm gonna be a better person than that, and I'm just gonna leave it out. Hey, this isn't recording right now, is it? When I returned home, I slapped another resistance mod on each piece of armor, bringing everything up to level 6. But just to do a little test, I put another one on my helmet, and it did bring it up to level 7. So who knows the cap at this point? But there's also a blood moon right now, so in celebration of my new armor, I went outside. After shooting from a distance for a while, I decided to put my armor to the test against regular parasites. It is definitely significantly better. I even went as far as to take on multiple high-level parasites, and I was sort of holding my own. My only setback right now was my damage output, and after a couple minutes of fighting, the damage did catch up to me and it got me to my normal health. My armor was also shredded in durability, so I took on a few more and then I headed back home. Even with all my upgrades, it seemed like I was still really no match for parasites in real combat. I was feeling a bit defeated at this point. I needed some sort of hope. And in desperation, I turned back towards the sword. I knew how difficult it was, but at this point, I thought that maybe if I dedicated everything towards it, then I could do it. I started looking at mystical agriculture seeds as a possible avenue to get resources I needed. But for right now, I went to the Nether to gather more skulls. I was using my old sword with looting 3, but even still, the drops I got are just super lucky. Like sometimes I would get 2 skulls within a minute of each other. But you know, I didn't feel like looking at my game file, so you can't really blame me in like a couple months if it turns out that they like had something in it or something, you know, so it's whatever. With that luck, I had 12 skulls by the morning of day 58, and I could fight the withers. I was planning to just speedrun them, but after the first one, he dropped a supreme essence. He had probably dropped it before, but I probably didn't know what it was, and this was pretty big. I could make seeds to grow ores or more supremium if I got more essence. For right now, I fought the withers, and nothing really happened, except for one wither that dropped a withering charm. I got home and I put some redstone on my current sword to help with the swing speed. Then I fought parasites till morning. I kept killing parasites into the next day, but at this point I had noticed that they had evolved again. Level 2 beacons were spawning, and now these guys were bad news. They can spawn guys like this. Yeah, you don't want that happening while you're on the ground. But I still stayed outside and a blood moon came. I was fine for the most part. That was until one of these guys broke all my armor again. This is getting ridiculous at this point. You know, I healed up all my armor and I went back out. You know, when you meet an obstacle that you just can't overcome and you try and you mash your head against it, and at this point it's bleeding. That's me right now, and these parasites are just an immovable object that I can't overcome. I fought till morning, and I'm not really fighting at this point. I'm just sort of swinging at everything that moves, not caring about my health or anything really. Great. I sort of need to move fast to get geared up, but no, I just keep mindlessly fighting parasites. And speaking of needless fights, remember that boss a while ago? Yeah, neither did I, but I did right now, so I decided to head over there just to fight anything except for parasites. And this guy? Nothing, literally baby compared to parasites. This was a boss and he was cake, and I don't know at this point. I flew home just thinking. I killed a sun chief and just sort of thought. When I got to the waystone, I decided to teleport to the end and just fight some mutant endermen for no reason. I just sort of wanted to see how I did, you know. I needed to fight anything other than parasites once again. And they did damage, but compared to the parasites, it was just nothing. And I just sort of wiped the floor with them. And I went back home and I started crafting cores again, almost just sort of like, I don't know, a way to cope. But of course, when I started crafting, I needed more emeralds, and it's time for a last resort. I got my golden lasso and I headed to a village. I knew of another way to get emerald, putting villagers in a tinker's smelter. I grabbed my first victim and I began taking trips. By morning, I had the whole village cleared out, but it wasn't enough. Or so I thought. I didn't know the conversion from MB to ingots, and I thought that I had to make an ingot, but you can't make emerald ingots. And I also thought that it would display one ingot when I had an ingot, but it just didn't work like that. That was a big oversight on my part, but what can you do? You know, you just gotta focus on what you can do. So for right now, I decided to go to the Nether I was still short on stars, and grinding these things out seemed like an easier task to grind for. It was really sort of therapeutic at this point, just flying around, one-shotting everything with a simple goal in mind. It's nice. But it did not last long. In day 90, I was home with 19 skulls. I organized my chest, and I found a nice little cave. It had some diamonds in it too. I set up to fight 6 withers in a row. The fights were going well so far. The only problem was the withering effect. It doesn't do much damage, but it's making me run through my food. But wither number 4 dropped this cool charm. This charm took away withering when used. Yeah, it's real nice. Sounds like a real useful thing. It went away after 2 uses, and it was just one of those withering souls that isn't very useful at all. After that final kill, I did a bit of mining before I went home. I had a bunch of Supreme Essence at this point, so I figured I might as well try to get some more Supremium. Of course, I needed more Essence for that, so I hopped into the end and just started mining all day, just running around and mining any that I could see. I had so many stacks when I came home day 92. Probably the most I've ever had. And with the Supremium Essence, I made 5 Supremium ingots. My main problem right now is damage, so I added a Supremium limb to my bow. Now it's back to making cores until, you guessed it, I ran out of emeralds. I need a new source because as far as I knew at the time, villagers were not going to work out. But I knew that these ships that were scattered all around the sea had an emerald block each. So I took to the seas. Each boat gave me 3 gold blocks, so I was really killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Or at least that's what I told myself to make this a reasonable method. But in reality, ships were harder to find than I thought. I found an entirely new structure before I found a ship. This place was it was pretty fun. It had zombie spawners, it had booby traps that didn't work, but you know, it's really the thought that counts. But anyways, after about 4 boats, I'm done with this method, and I went back to mining. But when I went mining, I found some failed parasites. And this is bad because I usually don't spawn this deep underground, which meant this was either a glitch or they leveled up again. To make matters worse, one of them was a special and he fucked me up. It was a brutal fight that brought me down to my main health bar. I needed to get that sword fast. The odds were not in my favor at this point. I had 6 days left and I had seemingly not gotten much closer to the end goal. So in order to make progress and make myself feel better, I went back to the end to collect the other elytras day 94. I wanted to go back for the ships I skipped over when I collected the other 6 elytras, but it was too hard to tell which ships I'd collected. Eventually I decided to just go a new way and I collected 12 out of 16. I also realized that while I'm here, I might as well collect the 60 floor end flower things that I needed. Then I got back to collecting elytras. Oh no, it looks like I just went home. I'm an idiot, and apparently I can't count, so I only collected 12. What is happening right now? What am I doing? When I got home, I tried to use like a new material to make new gear or something. I couldn't figure it out. So instead of looking it up, I gave up, you know? And I made a shuriken. Yeah, much better than trying to solve your problems. Just make a very sharp object. And you know what? Day 96, I went and tested it out. And it's actually good. It one-shot most things and it was instant range damage compared to my long-charging longbow. Finally, at least one thing I did wasn't a complete. But in other news, with resources at an all-time low, I looked back to mystical agriculture seeds to grow the materials that I needed. I needed more essence. Luckily, while I was in the end, I noticed that there was a bunch of essence there. So I took a trip over there, and there was so much everywhere. I had a couple stacks in no time at all. I spent the entirety of day 97 figuring out how to effectively grow these plants. And with an inventory full of stacks of essence, I made a singular emerald plant and 3 incubators under it. And I was hoping to grow this into a small field pretty quickly, but these plants would never grow. Day 98, I still had hopes of the plants growing. So in the meantime, I put reinforcement plates on my armor in hopes that it wouldn't break as instantly as it had been. I looked at ways to increase my survivability and I found rings of regeneration. I just needed to convert a diamond block and that didn't look so hard, so I made all the machinery and I had one converted by the end of the night. Yeah, look at that progress. It should also be noted that at this point, The parasites have regressed to the point that I can no longer sleep. Day 99. I had the ring made and I charged it with blade powder to 100%. Then I went outside to test it and it held up pretty good. In combination with my armor, I could take a decent amount of damage, but I wasn't doing enough damage for my little protection to matter against the higher level parasites. I felt sort of helpless at this point. I was one day away and I still felt like the world had won. I took a trip back to where it all began to see if maybe it would help a little bit. The original village where I was so scared, and to be honest, it didn't feel like anything had really changed. I surveyed my land and looked at all the corruption that had occurred. Everything was lost. I started to mine, but I was goalless. And I was... Day 100.